premium coupes. They should look great, be good to drive, and not be too much of a compromise compared to the practical saloon models on which they're based. But which should you choose between the new Audi A5, Mercedes C-Class Coupe, the BMW 4 Series, or if you're sick of German cars, the left-field Lexus RC? To help you decide, I'm going to compare their design.
Oh, Audi, I think you could have done a bit more.
Critique their cabins.
I imagine this is what heaven feels like.
Test what they're like to drive.
Put your foot down in this car, and because it's got a CVT gearbox, you get that droning sound.
And see how practical they are.
Oh my gosh, this isn't complete torture like the other cars.
But first, let's talk about prices. The BMW starts from £31,260, the Audi £30,700, the Mercedes £31,835, and the Lexus £35,995.
But what matters is the price that you actually pay. And if you click up there to go to carwow.co.uk, you can compare offers from dealers and buy at a price you're confident in. And on average, you can save £2,495 on an Audi A5, even though it's brand new. In fact, on all the cars in this test, you can save an average of 10 grand.
And this brings us on to technology and the BMW. It gets off to a great start with its iDrive system, which is just so simple and easy to use. It's well connected to and has a concierge service at your beck and call. This is the upgraded professional system with the big screen.
This Audi also has an upgraded infotainment system, and instead of the normal 7-inch screen, you get a larger version here. It's nice and crisp and clear, and the infotainment system itself and the user interface is just so easy and intuitive to use. Dead easy to just whiz through different menus and get the functions you want. Also, you've got Audi smartphone interface, so I've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And this particular car has the upgraded instrument dial, so for 240 quid, you get this fully digital display here, and you can whiz through different menus once again, and have full mapping right in front of you, and you can change the view as well to big dials or small dials. It's lovely. Definitely worth the upgrade.
The Mercedes also has an upgraded system, but that's only available as part of a £3,000 Premium Plus package, and you do kind of want it because the standard screen is small and you get a cheapo Garmin sat-nav. Either way though, the user interface and control system isn't as good as in the BMW or the Audi.
It's better than the RC system though. This is actually the upgraded 2 grand premium nav, and while the mapping, yeah, it's pretty good, and you have stuff like this. Look, you can get Google Street View, wow. The whole system, the interface is just so confusing, and this mouse pad here with force feedback, it's just really difficult to use while you're driving.
Either way though, the user interface and control system isn't as good as the BMWs nor the Audis. This is a bit of a shame as the interior design is kind of cool with the various layered surfaces, the super comfy seats, the solid build quality, and Lexus's reliability record, which totally shames that of the Germans. Actually, the interior of the BMW is a little shameful in this company. While all the materials feel nice, the design is just a bit boring and nowhere near as special as the Mercedes.
This is such a delightful cabin. I imagine this is what heaven feels like. The only problem is if you crash this car and when you come to, you would never know if you're dead or not. I mean, this interior here with this wood trim instead of the usual shiny black plastic, that's a no-cost option, and it's just lovely. Also, this particular car, the Coupe, has special seats that you only get in the Coupe, and they're mounted lower for a more sporty feel than the seats in the saloon. This one has leather seats upgrade and artificial leather on the dash. In total, that's £1,000 extra, but it's a worthwhile one.
The Audi doesn't have quite the panache of the Mercedes, but it's still a very nice place to be. It's also dead easy to use, comfortable, and well thought out. And the materials used inside just feel that little bit more expensive than in the other 3 cars.
And that brings me on to the exterior design, and oh Audi, I think you could have done a bit more. If you ask me, this is the least exciting looking of all the 4 cars, but what do you think? If you click up there, you can vote on which you think is the best looking, the Mercedes C-Class Coupe, the Lexus RC, the BMW 4 Series, or this Audi A5. My vote, it goes to the Mercedes.
Perhaps the least important consideration when buying a coupe is practicality, but it does still matter. And for rear passengers, the BMW is best.
In fact, oh my gosh, this isn't complete torture like the other cars. It's the only one you can realistically carry adults in the back of. So you've got some decent sized rear windows. Legroom's actually good, and headroom, well, if I slouch a little bit, yeah, that's livable.
It's just a shame there's no cup holders in the back. Still, the big doors make it relatively easy to fit a child seat, and the large boot and fold-down seats with a ski hatch means you can carry people and their stuff. You can't carry so much in the Lexus, as its boot is the smallest here. Cabin spaces are the worst as well, and like the BMW, there's none in the back. but the car's wide opening doors help when it comes to fitting a child seat.
It can be a bit of a faff to get in the back yourself, because first you have to detach the seatbelt holder, because there's no clever seatbelt butler like in the BMW. And while the seat does move forward under its own steam electrically, it does so very slowly, so it takes a while till you can actually get in. And then when you are in, yes, it's noticeably more cramped. Even smaller adults won't be particularly happy in the back of this car.
Still, if you think that's bad, the Mercedes is even worse in the back, and really is only suitable for children. It's the hardest car to fit a child seat in too, though it tries to counter by having the best cubby spaces both front and back. The overall boot capacity is down on the BMW, and the smaller opening means it's not as easy to load as much into it either. However, if it's boot capacity you're after, the A5's is not only the biggest, it's also the most useful, with a nice square shape and a large opening into the cabin for carrying longer items. Cubby spaces are decent too, and the wide doors help when fitting a child seat.
Getting in the back of the A5 is pretty easy. Fold the seat forward, press a button on top of it, clamber in, press it again to move it back to its original position for the driver, pull it back, and knee room is actually pretty decent. What's not is headroom, but I can slouch to just about get comfortable, though it's not completely ideal.
Finally, it's time to compare how these cars drive, and for a coupe, this matters just as much as the design.
Now, a lot of people will rule this Lexus out immediately because you can't get it with a diesel engine. But do you know what, that could be a mistake, because I'm averaging 50 miles per gallon, and I think if you do a lot of town miles, this is a good car. But if you do lots of motorway miles, it's probably not so good as going for one of the diesel engines, because hybrids don't perform quite so well at high speeds as a diesel. And then there's the performance, because, well, you put your foot down in this car, and because it's got a CVT gearbox, you get that droning sound, although there are some pedals, so you can actually change gear almost like a normal auto, but it kind of mimics the stepped gear changes. It just doesn't feel quite right. But still, it's nice enough to drive this car. It's reasonably quiet. Visibility isn't all that great though, but it's comfy. I think overall though, this car, it's not terrible to drive. It's really quite pleasant, and it's going to be sporty enough for most people. But for those who really do want a more fine handling car, then yeah, the Germans do it a little bit better, I'm afraid. Sorry Lexus, it's just true.
So it's encouraging news for the Lexus, but how does the BMW measure up?
Well, it's based on the 3 Series, but BMW has tweaked it slightly, so it's just a little bit more sporty to drive. Thing is though, like with the 3 Series, you absolutely have to spend extra on the optional adaptive suspension, otherwise it just doesn't drive as well as it can. In fact, without that suspension, it's actually not that much better than the Lexus. Sorry, BMW fanboys, but it's just not. But with it, oh my God, it corners really well, and when you put it into comfort mode, it's nice and comfortable as well. And that's, you know, it's a great combination. The only thing that lets this car down really is the fact that, wow, it's a little bit noisy. You get quite a lot of tyre roar, quite a bit of wind whistle. And this diesel engine of this 420D, it can be a bit coarse when you put your foot down. Can't fault the performance though. 0 to 60 is around 7 seconds. And it will return in this particular 4-wheel drive X-Drive version with the automatic gearbox. Apparently 60 miles per gallon, though I'm actually only doing 41, so not quite so good. One thing that is good about this BMW though is the visibility, which is surprisingly good for a sporty coupe. And then there's a gearbox. This 8-speed auto is one of my favourite autos ever.
And that smoothly shifts us onto the Mercedes.
So this is the diesel version of the C-Class Coupe, and it gets Mercedes' new 9-speed automatic gearbox, which is a lovely gearbox. It's almost as good as the 8-speed auto you can get in the BMW 4 Series. Now the petrol versions of this car get a 7-speed automatic gearbox, but it's not actually all that great compared to this new 9-speed. Also, the petrols themselves, they're not as good as the petrols you can get in the BMW, unless you're talking about the high-performance AMG versions. Now, the car itself, the coupe, has been set up slightly differently than the saloon, and whatever Mercedes engineers have done to this car, they should do it to the saloon, because it's much better to drive. There's a good balance of handling and comfort. It's not quite as sporty feeling maybe as the BMW, but it's not bad, and I find it more comfortable to travel in. Mainly because, well, it's just quieter in here. This car is a very, very serene, relaxing car to travel in, and this one's actually riding on the optional air suspension. Now, it's not essential, but boy is it lovely if you've got it. So in comfort mode, it just glides, and it just feels more sophisticated to travel in. It costs you around 900 quid extra though, so you've got to really weigh up whether it's worth spending that extra. But on the whole, yeah, this Mercedes C-Class Coupe is very good. The only thing that spoils the ambience is when you put your foot down with the 2.1 litre diesel engine, it's a bit raucous. Can't fault the economy though. I'm getting 57 miles per gallon.
So the Mercedes is fun to drive, comfortable and economical. Plenty then for our final car to live up to.
So the Audi A5. Now from the get-go you can tell that this car is very, very easy to drive. The controls are nice and light, you've got good visibility for a coupe. This one's on normal suspension, so it's not got an adaptive setup like the BMW or the air suspension in the Mercedes, and as a result it doesn't ride over bumps quite so well. The thing that's really the most disappointing thing about it though is that when you compare it to the two German cars, it just doesn't feel as much fun. I mean, it handles well, really does. I mean, this car's front wheel drive and it goes around corners very nicely, but it just doesn't feel as fun as a rear drive Mercedes, and it doesn't feel as grippy as the four wheel drive BMW. Obviously you can get this car with quattro all-wheel drive, but still overall it just, yeah, it's not as much of a laugh to drive as its German rivals. Thing is though, it does have the best engines. I really like the Audi's engines. So this is the 2 litre diesel, it's got plenty of punch, it's smooth, it's quiet. I prefer it than the diesels that you get in the two Germans, and I prefer it than the hybrid system in that Lexus. And I'm averaging 50 miles per gallon, yet this 190 horsepower 2 litre diesel can do 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds. So it's like, yeah, you can have your cake and you can eat it.
So then, where does that leave us? Well, the Lexus is an interesting left field choice, especially if you hate diesel. The BMW is the most fun to drive and comes with some strong engines. The Audi A5 is a great all-rounder, but doesn't feel that much more special than the A4 saloon on which it's based. However, the Mercedes does have the necessary wow factor both in the way it looks and how it drives, and that matters with the coupe and is why the C-Class wins this test. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and click on the CarWow logo to subscribe to our channel. Also click on the video windows to watch the individual video reviews of each of the cars in this test.